And if you're seeing this right now, pause. Not physically, internally. Because something inside you already knows this isn't random. You've been feeling it for a while, and, haven't you? That quiet tension under your skin, that subtle irritation you can't explain, that heaviness that shows up even on good days. You smile, you function, and you answer messages. You do what you're supposed to do. But something inside you is tired. Tired of pretending, tired of performing, and tired of being the version of yourself that everyone else finds acceptable. And maybe you don't even realize you're pretending, and maybe you call it being mature. Maybe you call it being strong. Maybe you call it being the bigger person. But strength that requires suppression is not strength, and it's containment. And containment creates pressure. That pressure you feel. That's not anxiety. That's not randomness. That's not bad luck. And that's your shadow trying to wake you up. You've probably noticed it in small ways. You get triggered by people who seem confident. You judge someone who is loud and expressive, unapologetic. You feel a strange resentment towards someone who gets attention effortlessly. And then you tell yourself you're just being observant. But are you? Or are you reacting to something in them that you buried in yourself? You don't hate them. You hate what they activate in you. Read that again, but slowly. And you don't hate them. You hate what they activate in you. And there is a part of you that learned very early in life which emotions were acceptable and which ones were dangerous. Maybe anger wasn't allowed, and maybe sadness made people uncomfortable. Maybe confidence was labeled as arrogance. Maybe sensitivity was called weakness. So you adapted. You trimmed yourself down, and you polished the edges. You hid the parts that got you disapproved of. And that hidden collection of traits, impulses, emotions, desires, and that's what psychologists like Carl Jung referred to as the shadow. But this isn't about psychology textbooks. This is about you, and your shadow is the part of you that you were taught not to be. The selfish part, the needy part, the ambitious part, the angry part, the sexual part, the emotional part, and the part that wants more, the part that doesn't want to forgive, the part that doesn't want to be nice. You didn't destroy those parts. You just pushed them into the dark. And what we push into the dark does not disappear. It waits. It grows. It leaks. That leak shows up in your triggers. Why does that person bother you so much? And why does their success feel like an attack? Why does their confidence feel fake? Why does their happiness annoy you? Because somewhere inside, and there is a version of you that wants to be exactly that, and you don't allow it. Your shadow doesn't only hold what's bad. It also holds your power, and the reason you feel stuck right now is not because you lack discipline. It's not because you need another productivity hack. It's because you are split, and part of you wants expansion. Part of you is terrified of being seen. Part of you wants intimacy. Part of you is afraid of vulnerability. Part of you wants success, and part of you feels guilty for wanting more. And so you hover in between, never fully committing, never fully expressing, never fully relaxing. And that tension you feel in your body sometimes, that tightness in your chest, that jaw you clench, that restlessness at night, that's unexpressed emotion, and you've become very good at being controlled. But control has a cost. Have you noticed how easily you get irritated lately? Small things feel bigger than they should, and someone cancels plans and it feels personal. Someone disagrees with you and it feels threatening. Someone ignores you and it feels like rejection from childhood, and that's not overreaction. That's accumulation. Your shadow stores what you refuse to process. Every time you swallowed your anger to keep the peace, and every time you laughed when something hurt, every time you said, "It's fine," when it wasn't, every time you minimized your needs so you wouldn't be too much, and you thought you were being mature. But maturity without authenticity becomes self-abandonment, and self-abandonment creates resentment. Look at your patterns, and the relationships that repeat. The same arguments in different forms, the same type of partner, the same disappointment, the same ending. That's not coincidence, and that's unintegrated shadow. You attract what mirrors what you haven't owned. If you suppress your anger, you'll attract someone who expresses it chaotically, and if you suppress your needs, you'll attract someone who is overly needy. If you suppress your dominance, you'll attract someone controlling, and because life will force you to confront what you refuse to see in yourself. And it doesn't feel spiritual when it's happening. It feels unfair. It feels frustrating, and it feels exhausting. But it's precise. Your shadow doesn't whisper forever, Eventually, it disrupts, burnout, sudden breakdowns, explosive arguments, impulsive decisions, and self-sabotage right when things start going well. Have you ever noticed how close you get to something good and then somehow ruin it? You procrastinate, you overthink, and you pick a fight. You withdraw, you lose motivation, and then you blame yourself for lacking discipline. But what if it's not laziness? And what if part of you doesn't feel safe succeeding? Success would mean visibility. Visibility would mean judgment. Judgment would mean rejection. And somewhere in your past, and rejection felt dangerous. So your shadow protects you by keeping you small. You think you want more. But do you feel safe having more? That's the question. And your jealousy is not ugliness. It's information. When you feel envy toward someone, don't shame yourself. Ask, and what are they expressing that I don't allow myself to express? Is it confidence? Is it creativity? Is it freedom? Is it emotional honesty? And your shadow hides both your darkness and your brilliance. You were never meant to be only light. The constant pressure to be positive, calm, evolved, understanding, and that's spiritual bypassing. You are human. You have rage. You have desire. You have impulses. And pretending you don't doesn't make you pure. It makes you fragmented. And think about someone who triggers you deeply. Bring them to mind. Notice the emotion that rises first. Is it anger? Is it disgust? Is it superiority? And now ask yourself something uncomfortable. If I'm honest, where does that trait live in me? Not how do I act it out, but where does it exist? And if you judge someone as selfish, where are you selfish but afraid to admit it? If you judge someone as arrogant, where do you secretly feel superior? And if you judge someone as weak, where do you feel fragile? This is not about shaming yourself. This is about reclaiming yourself. Because what you judge externally, and you exile internally. And what you exile internally controls you from the shadows. Let's slow down. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the version of you that you try not to be. Maybe they're angry, maybe they're loud, maybe they're needy, maybe they're overly ambitious. See them clearly, and notice how quickly your mind wants to criticize them. Now, ask yourself, when did I first learn that this version of me wasn't acceptable? And was it when you were a child and your emotions were dismissed? Was it when you were told to stop crying? Was it when you were compared to someone else? And was it when expressing anger got you punished? Your shadow began forming the moment love felt conditional, and children will abandon parts of themselves to maintain connection. If being quiet earned you praise, you became quiet. If being helpful earned you approval, and you became helpful. If being strong prevented burdening others, you became strong. But the parts that didn't earn love didn't disappear. They waited, and now they want back in. The reason you feel restless lately is because the identity you built is too small for who you actually are. You've outgrown your mask, but taking it off feels terrifying. Because if you stop being the nice one, or if you stop being the strong one, what happens? If you admit you're angry, and will people leave? If you express your needs, will you be rejected? This is where shadow work becomes real. Not aesthetic, not trendy, real. And shadow work means sitting with the parts of you that you've spent years trying to outgrow. It means admitting that you have manipulative tendencies, and it means admitting you crave validation. It means admitting you want attention. It means admitting you're not always kind in your thoughts. And here's the paradox. And the moment you accept these truths consciously, they stop controlling you unconsciously. Unacknowledged anger becomes passive aggression, and acknowledged anger becomes boundaries. Unacknowledged jealousy becomes bitterness. Acknowledged jealousy becomes clarity about your desires, and unacknowledged fear becomes self-sabotage. Acknowledged fear becomes preparation. You are not here to eliminate your darkness. You are here to integrate it. And integration means you can say, yes, I have that in me, without shame. It means you can feel anger without exploding. It means you can feel desire without self-hatred. And it means you can feel power without guilt. Most people are at war with themselves. They're trying to kill parts of who they are. But inner war creates outer chaos. And look at your exhaustion. How much of it comes from maintaining an image, from being agreeable, from not saying what you really think, from pretending you don't care, and that's heavy. And the longer you ignore your shadow, the louder it becomes. Sometimes it shows up as sudden attraction to chaos, and you crave intensity because numbness feels worse. Sometimes it shows up as withdrawal. You isolate because connection feels exposing. and sometimes it shows up as overachievement. You chase validation because internally you feel unseen. Your shadow isn't evil. It's injured, and it's the younger version of you that learned survival strategies, and those strategies helped you once. But they're suffocating you now, and you don't need to destroy your coping mechanisms. You need to update them. Right now, I want you to think of one recurring conflict in your life, and maybe it's always feeling unappreciated. Maybe it's always feeling controlled. Maybe it's always feeling abandoned. Now ask yourself, and what role do I unconsciously play in recreating this? That's not blame, that's power. Because if you play a role, you can change the script. Your shadow thrives in denial, and when you say, "I'm not like that," it smiles. Because it knows you are, you just won't admit it. The goal isn't to become darker. The goal is to become whole. And wholeness means you can hold opposites. You can be kind and assertive. You can be loving and firm. You can be compassionate and angry. You can be spiritual and flawed. And you don't need to be perfect to be worthy. But you do need to be honest to be free. Let's go deeper. What emotion do you avoid the most? Sit with that question. And is it anger? Is it shame? Is it sadness? Is it envy? Now imagine allowing yourself to feel it fully, without acting on it, without judging it, just feeling it. And where does it live in your body? Your throat, your chest, your stomach. Breathe into that space. Most people fear that if they let themselves feel their darkness, and they'll lose control. But suppression is what creates explosions. Awareness creates choice. You can feel rage without becoming violent, and you can feel jealousy without becoming cruel. You can feel desire without becoming reckless. The emotion is not the enemy. Unconsciousness is, and you have spent years perfecting your light. Now it's time to meet your dark, not to indulge it, not to glorify it, but to understand it. And ask yourself in your journal later, what do I pretend not to care about? What do I secretly crave? What traits in others do I overact to? When do I feel most fake? And when do I feel most alive? Your answers will scare you a little. That's a good sign. Growth rarely feels comfortable at first, and there is a version of you that is more direct, more powerful, more expressive, more embodied. But that version requires you to disappoint people who benefited from your silence. And that's why you hesitate. Your shadow holds your no, and your shadow holds your hunger. Your shadow holds your ambition. You were taught that wanting more was greedy, that speaking up was disrespectful, and that prioritizing yourself was selfish. But chronic self-sacrifice turns into quiet resentment, and resentment poisons love, and you can't truly love others while abandoning yourself. Integration looks like this. You say what you mean. You acknowledge your envy and use it as direction, and you admit when you're wrong. You stop pretending you're always right. You allow yourself to outgrow people. You allow yourself to be misunderstood, and because authenticity will always threaten dynamics built on your suppression, some people will prefer the old you, the smaller you, the easier you, but your job is not to remain digestible. Your job is to remain honest. Right now, your shadow is not asking to destroy your life. It's asking to be included in it, and it's asking you to stop pretending you're only light. It's asking you to stop shaming yourself for being human, and it's asking you to reclaim the parts of you that were labeled too much. You are not too much. You were just never fully seen. The more you integrate your shadow, and the less reactive you become, because you stop fighting yourself. You stop projecting your denied traits onto others, and you stop needing the world to reflect a sanitized version of you. And something powerful happens. You feel grounded. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer divided. Wholeness feels calm, not euphoric, not dramatic. Calm, because there is no inner civil war. Your anger becomes protection, and your fear becomes intuition. Your jealousy becomes direction. Your sadness becomes depth. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes fuel. If this message feels intense, and it's because something inside you recognizes the truth. You're not broken, you're fragmented. And fragmentation can be healed. But healing requires honesty, and not the curated honesty you post publicly. The private honesty you whisper in the dark tonight. Instead of distracting yourself, sit quietly for 10 minutes. No phone, and no noise. Ask yourself, what am I tired of pretending not to know? And wait, an answer will come. It might be subtle. It might be uncomfortable. And it might change everything. Your shadow isn't here to ruin you. It's here to return you to yourself. You don't need to be less dark. You need to be less divided. And the moment you stop running from yourself, You stop running from your life. If you're ready to stop pretending and to stop splitting yourself into acceptable and unacceptable parts, then this is your turning point, not dramatic, not loud, but real. Your shadow is not your enemy, and it's the doorway to your wholeness, and it's been waiting for you to finally look back at it without fear.